Hi, welcome back to Reading Pathways. I'm Matt, and I would like to try to make a contribution to Poetry Thursday today. And in doing so, I want to explain a round of a couple coincidences, as is typical of this channel, that led me to this particular interest. So this focuses on Rainer Maria Rilke, an Austrian poet from the late 19th century, early 20th century, who I happened to grab a few volumes from some time ago in a book haul. And they've been sitting there, and I perused them once or twice here and there just out of interest to see what they're about. But then I had a few coincidences that sort of kicked into gear and led me to think about putting this together. So long story short, 2 Poetry Thursdays ago, I woke up, started browsing on my phone as usual, and opened BookTube, of course, and started seeing some Poetry Thursday videos. So I had that on the mind, and I didn't really think at the time of participating in any way. And after watching a couple, I then, as usual, as is common, I got distracted by something else on my phone, which then led me to some kind of article on Reddit or somewhere. And in the comments, just out of coincidence, I came across someone quoting a Rilke poem called Pathways. And so both Rilke, that name caught my eye, but of course the term Pathways too, being the namesake of this channel, always draws a little extra attention from me. So I read the short little excerpt of the poem. I think it might have been the poem in full that was reproduced. It was short, and it was nice. And I thought, oh, wouldn't that be a nice coincidence if I could do my first Poetry Thursday contribution with a poem titled Pathways in conjunction with the channel. So I have this selected poetry of Rainer Maria Rilke volume, which is quite thick and has a lot of selections from him. It actually has the German and the English in there. And I looked through the index, I looked through the back, the table of contents, to see if this Pathways poem was in here, but I came up empty, surprisingly, on that. But it did, researching online led me to find that I believe that the poem Pathways by Rilke was initially in, or was part of his Book of Hours collection. So I tried looking for references to that in some other things I have, and I went on Project Gutenberg and looked for anything Rilke related on there, and I was able to find this, Poems, Rainer Maria Rilke, translated by Jesse Lamont, from 1918, it looks like, this collection. So I scrolled through this, and it's a pretty short collection. It does reference the Book of Hours, in which I thought the poem Pathways was contained, but again, I came up empty searching this particular volume for that. However, another coincidence kicked in when, in reading through some of this on the Kindle, I got to the very last page of this, and again, it just jumped right out at my eye unexpectedly. The very end of this has a little stanza which concludes with, "Up the pathway that no one knows." So then I scrolled backwards to see where that came from, and it's from a little selection called the Book of Poverty and Death, which is situated in a larger section in this, the Book of Hours. So I'm not exactly sure. I'm still looking into what the extent of the Book of Hours exactly is, how long or short it is, and what exactly is contained in there. But for today, all those coincidences. Oh, and one more. I'm also reading The Liars Club by Mary Karr right now. This was my random book selection from a few videos ago, and I'm just about done. But I also, around the same time as stumbling upon this reference to Rilke's poem Pathways, I also stumbled on a coincidental reference to Rilke in this, and I wanted to share that here. Mary Karr, who's narrating a memoir of her childhood, she is in this chapter talking about having gone to a zoo and having certainly mixed feelings about watching the captive animals at the zoo. And she says, When I grew up and discovered the German poet Rilke, it was this zoo's sorry-looking cats that I thought back to. As a young poet, Rilke had been sent by the sculptor Rodin to study zoo animals, and he captured in a few lines that same frustrated power that I sensed that day in the dull-coated panther. And she doesn't name the excerpt or the poem that the following excerpt comes from, but I do believe it's called The Panther, which is another Rilke poem I've come to learn from, also possibly from the Book of Hours. And the excerpt, or possibly the full poem in here, is, "It seems there are 1,000 bars, and behind the bars no world. As he paces in cramped circles over and over, the movement of his powerful soft strides is like a ritual dance around a center in which a mighty will stands paralyzed." So that was a Rilke poem, I think called The Panther, that I stumbled on within the Liars Club that I happened to be reading. And the other coincidences plus that, looking for that Pathways poem, as I said, led me to download the Rilke collection from Project Gutenberg. So let me end this by reading The Book of Poverty and Death from this collection, which is very short. "Her mouth is like the mouth of a fine bust that cannot utter sound, nor breathe, nor kiss, but that had once from life received all this, which shaped its subtle curves, and ever must from fullness of past knowledge dwell alone, a thing apart, a parable in stone. Alone thou wanderest through space, profound one with the hidden face. Thou art poverty's great rose, the eternal metamorphose of gold into the light of sun. Thou art the mystic homeless one. Into the world thou never came. Too mighty thou, too great to name, voice of the storm, song that the wild wind sings. Thou harp that shatters those who play thy strings. A watcher of thy spaces make me. Make me a listener at thy stone. Give to me vision and then wake me upon thy oceans all alone. Thy rivers' courses let me follow, where they leap the crags in their flight, and where at dusk in caverns hollow they croon to music of the night. Send me far into thy barren land, where the snow clouds the wild wind drives, where monasteries like gray shrouds stand, august symbols of unlived lives. There pilgrims climb slowly one by one, and behind them a blind man goes. With him I will walk till day is done, up the pathway that no one knows." So that is The Book of Poverty and Death from Rilke. That was a collection of rambling thoughts and coincidences on Rilke, but I thought there was too many of them to ignore today for Poetry Thursday, so I had to get those out there. So thanks to anyone that checks that out, and I've enjoyed watching the other Poetry Thursday contributions I've seen, and I hope to continue doing so. Thanks a lot.